Thank you. Restarting the meeting. Agenda item number 5, Hensall Quarry. We have Councillor McCartney. Oh, right, you're happy. You're happy to carry on. Thank you. We have 2 substitutes. Most of the members have had this report. Are you happy to receive an abridged version? Yeah, right. Amy, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So as the Chair just explained, a lot of you will recall that this was brought before you at December committee, and it's a plan application for the extraction of sand and gravel from a new quarry and restoration of the site to agriculture and nature conservation using imported infill materials, together with the construction of the new site access road, site offices and way bridge on land at Birch Road in Hensall. So I'll try and brief down what I've already told you all. So the application was subject to 3 objections having been raised on the grounds of a number of amenity and environmental concerns, and it originally came to you guys in December. However, the decision was made to defer the application on the grounds of amenity, specifically in relation to the soil bund, which was proposed to be located adjacent the nearest residential property, 1 acre. And just as an update, during the meeting, excuse me, in December, a matter was raised by the local resident at 1 acre regarding the possible installation of the drop curb to the north of the property onto Birch Road, and that was seen as a compensatory measure to appease the concern over difficulty emerging onto Long Lane, which would be the proposed vehicle route, and just to confirm that that is not a material planning consideration and therefore should not be given weight in the consideration of this application. Since the Strategic Planning Committee meeting, the applicant conducted a review and has made some amendments to the location of the subsoil bund specifically, which was proposed to be located immediately south of 1 acre. Following review, it's proposed that the subsoil mound, which was the larger of the 2, is amended, with the peak of the mound moved approximately 20 metres further into the site and away from 1 acre. And in addition, the northeastern side of the mound, which faces onto 1 acre, would be significantly slackened to reduce its visual impact where it would be viewed from the property. You'll have seen in the appendices a technical note from the noise assessor who prepared the original environmental statement has been included, which confirms that the revised mound would continue to achieve the noise attenuation, and it would comply with the noise levels set out in the conditions accompanying the previous committee report as well. So I'll run through quickly the presentation for those who haven't seen the site itself. So we've got the site location there, annotated in red. An aerial view showing what was the former Hensall Quarry to the north, the M62 immediately to the south, 1 acre just there on the boundary of the proposed site as well. And then the south of M62, you can see a more industrialised area with existing mineral sites and block making works as well. Just to run through some photos again for those who haven't seen, you'll see on the top right, you can see where the photo has been taken from. So this is taken from Long Lane, which would be near to where the access would be. That band of trees in the middle of there is the property 1 acre boundary as well. Again, another photo taken from the same location, just looking out on what would be the proposed site. And looking south towards the M62, you can just depict some of the HGVs trundling along there. Again, further into the site, looking west over what would be phases 1 and 2. And then we have a couple of photographs taken from 1 acre property within the 1 acre boundary, looking south onto what would be the quarry. Again, looking more southwest in this direction. So site plans, so the subsoil mound itself wouldn't move. It would still be in place, but the peak of it, i.e. that the middle part where the word subsoil is, it would move 20 metres in, like I said, and the rest would be slackened to minimise the visual impact from 1 acre. You've got the compound area there with the site access and the weighbridge. The site would be undertaken on a phased basis. Restoration would then follow each phase. So once phase 1's finished, it would move into phase 2 and restoration would follow it through phase 1. And just to run through, you can see the subsoil mound is slightly amended there. So you can see the peak has moved into the site in a way. And again, a cross section of the bund. You can see that there's more of a standoff there. And again, this was just to continue the phasing throughout, so I won't spend long on these, but you can see as it moves through the site, the restoration then follows towards a fully restored site. So to run through what the main considerations were when I presented to you last time, the principle of the proposed development is considered acceptable in land use planning terms, as it would provide an important and needed supply of sand and gravel to the area, which is currently an 8.5 million tonne shortfall for the southern area of North Yorkshire, and the proposed site would contribute approximately 1.2 million tonnes of sand and gravel reserve towards meeting this significant shortfall in supply. The proposed location is considered appropriate due to its proximity to the local highway network, and with it effectively being a continuation of the former Hensall quarry to the north. The location is considered not to deviate away from the surrounding landscape and other mineral and industrial sites within the area. The timescale of 14 years is considered typical for a site of this nature, with approximately 2 to 3 years per phase. And the site would be operated under a phased approach, as I've already said. The biodiversity net gain on site would also be undertaken on a phased approach and would be secured by conditions and a Section 106 unilateral undertaking, which would deliver 10.67% net gain. As I've said, access to the site would be via Long Lane, and upon leaving the site, vehicles would generally turn left out of the site and then left again onto the A645, which is Birch Road, before joining the A19 at Eggborough, which then connects to the M62. The Highways Authority is happy that the proposal, the vehicle numbers within the proposal can be accommodated on what is already a busy network around that area. But they have asked for conditions including the implementation of the new access, the visibility displays, wheel washing facilities and a construction management plan. With regards to landscape and visual impact, it's considered that while introducing the change to the landscape, the change would be localised and would not be significant, and in the longer term, through the restoration of the site, would be controlled by the conditions which are proposed at the end of the report. Other consultation responses received are all positive or have been brought to a positive conclusion, including Ecology, the Environment Agency, National Highways and Natural England. And again, a number of conditions have been proposed to mitigate the various environmental matters that have arisen during this application. Following receipt of the amended details regarding the relocation of the soil bund, the local neighbours were notified again of this. And the resident of 1 acre confirmed in his response that they do remain unsatisfied with the proposed amendment and that their objection still stands. They had expected the bund to move 30 to 40 metres into the site rather than the proposed 20 metres. However, it's our opinion that this is the happy middle ground insofar as not increasing the noise issues by moving the bund further into the site. So it's therefore considered that any potential impacts on the environment can be controlled and addressed through the imposition of appropriate planning conditions, and this would ensure that the council could control and monitor the site. The development is supported by local and national policies which comprise the development plan, and it is therefore recommended that planning permission is granted, subject to the proposed conditions and the prior completion of the unilateral undertaking to secure the BNG monitoring fees.
Thank you. We have two speakers on this item. The first speaker is Mr. Kendall and his daughter, who'd like to join us at the end. And you have 5 minutes to raise any points. If you press the... Yeah.
It does. Thank you. Where the buildings on the side elevation, there, it's a ski slope. When that rains, I live 2 metres below that field, and the way it's that ski slope, it's going to run into my property. It's low-lying land, is that. The farmer can't get his tractor through that in wet weather. What it needs is the top one moving along. I asked for 35 metres, but they proposed 20. I asked for the top one would be better for me, moving along, another 20 or 25 metres. I did ask for 5 metres off at the top as well. They say that these bins is to protect me from noise levels, but there's nothing to protect me when they're building these bins with drops and bulldozers and such. It's going to make a right noise on my house, and that can't be right. And another thing, in the winter, when the sun goes down, I have my pictures, the winter's going to come in hour early for me because on the southern hemisphere winter, we hardly get any sun. I had an 8 bay window fitted in my home with Perkinson's glass to warm it up. I won't see sun for 15 years if they put that there. 15 years, and that can't be right. It's making my home cold and damp, and I'll have to use a lot more electric in the winter months. It's not right. The place that then should go is running down by the road. If you look on the road where the noise levels are, it'll show you where the noise levels are. And that should be there. I did talk to a sound engineer, and he was going to come up in January, but he's got on holiday in February. He can't come. He's in Tenerife. But he says the impact is a lot less running parallel with the road at that height than what it is at your house, because the sound levels will travel over it. It's not right. Have a word with your daughter, see what she thinks. I've worked 50 years for that house. 50 years. Heavy engineering. It's not right.
Yeah, my dad's, we wanted to initially oppose, but we didn't oppose. We understand business, so you say that happy medium, that's our happy medium. We've compromised in, not opposing the sand and quarry going ahead. Yeah, it is going to affect us. The sun is direct. We've got one little space in the sun. It's bang smack in our living room, and it's going to affect it. It's really going to affect it. We've got the photos. We didn't know that we had to bring them 24 hours beforehand. But real significant, it's just there. I don't know if you can see, but that's it. That's our house, and that's just where we get a bit of our sun.
We walked through that sun for 15 years.
That's the only sunshine we get going into the house, to the property. And noise as well. We're concerned about the noise as well. I wonder if you could put soundproof windows in at all. And that's all I've got to say. Yeah, my dad's worked, well, I'll say one more thing. My dad's worked very hard for the property that we live in. and we live a peaceful life there. It's rural and we've got a peaceful life. And we're just peaceful people really plodding along, so it is going to affect us. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much. Our other speaker is the applicant, Mr. Thistlewaite. Somewhere, Sam? You've got 5 minutes, Sam, starting when you're ready.
Morning, thank you. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the application this morning. I don't intend to take up the full lot of time given the discussions that we had last time. I think you're all familiar with our position. The key points remain unchanged. The application is recommended for approval. There are no objections from statutory consultees, and the proposal will meet an identified need for this type of mineral within North Yorkshire. And the principle and technical acceptability of the scheme have been robustly assessed. Following the previous meeting, we carefully considered the comments that were raised by members who have sought to address the points raised and brought forward by Mr. Kendall. Whilst ensuring that the correct proportionate level and protection is provided to his property, and that's the key factor here. It's the balance between trying to address his concerns as much as we can do, but whilst also making sure that he's afforded the level of protection that his property needs. Since December, we have amended both the position and design of the screening mound. The peak of the mound has been moved further away from his property, and the face of the mound has been significantly slackened off. This will materially reduce its visual impact when viewed from his property. As was the case previously, the mound will be grass seeded at the earliest possible opportunity to assist with stability and to minimise any kind of dust creation. That will also help with drainage as well, in terms of having a grass seeded bank. Importantly, should this site be approved, this will not mark the end of the dialogue between the applicant and Mr. Kendall. The applicant is committed to being a good neighbour throughout the lifetime of the site. Ongoing communication will continue and every reasonable step will be taken to ensure his property receives the maximum practical protection. In light of the amendments undertaken and the constructive input from members that we had last time, the scheme before you has been improved. We therefore respectfully ask that the application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members? Questions to officers? Councillor Swanwick.
Thank you, Chair. And I think it's certainly an improvement that the applicant has taken notice of our comments in response to the concerns of the owner of One Acre. Just wanted to know a little bit about the methodology of achieving this happy middle ground that has been talked about in terms of, on the one hand, balancing the amenity of the gentleman versus the need to screen the sound. Were there various distances modelled, or was 20 metres the only distance modelled? In other words, did you try it at 30, 35 and find that it actually didn't screen the sound off? On the other hand, at the other end, that it was obviously not an option for the objector.
Councillor Swanwick, it's not really a question the officer can answer, but since there doesn't seem to be many questions, I think we'll put it to the applicant, if that's all right. You still with us, Sam?
Yeah, we did. We had a look and we sense checked how far we could push it, and the consensus was that we still needed we needed to be broadly in the same sort of position that we were in last time to make sure that we provided the noise protection you need. With noise emissions, you either protect at the source or at the receptor. You can't really stray in that middle ground; it kind of becomes ineffective. So we've tried to stay as close as we can do to the receptor, whilst pushing it back as much as we can do, so that we can try and strike that balance. But we did test that quite thoroughly, given the comments that were made by yourselves and Mr. Kendall last time.
Okay. Councillor Lee.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious as to the redesign of the screening bund. Having listened to the objector, he seems to be less satisfied with that than the previous iteration, mainly because of the slope and concerns about potential flooding. is that a genuine concern in terms of the redesign?
All I can say is that, like Sam's just said, on behalf of the applicant, is that they went away and came up with what would be the best solution all round, having taken that point into consideration as well. The bund would be ceded to the bund would be planted up to alleviate the slope slippage, if you want to call it that. But again, just to reiterate that is what is the best method, slope-wise, position-wise, etc., in this case, to try and alleviate the concerns that have been raised.
I mean, is there a risk of flooding there on
That
this
particular location isn't located within a flood zone.
Okay. And the other question I just wanted to raise, I think it was clear last time what the committee was feeling in terms of this particular property, which is the one that is going to be impacted the most. And I think we felt that mitigation, wherever possible, was, the way to proceed. And there were concerns over the bund, but there was also concerns over the road. And again, the objector had referred to the desire to install the new access. And I know that you said that the issue of the drop curb, etc., is not a material consideration, but we did have an undertaking from the applicant that they would contribute towards that driveway. That hasn't been mentioned this morning. Is that still on the table?
Yes, I understand that conversation has taken place outside of this meeting between the applicant and the resident to come to some sort of compromise with that.
Just for the sake of the meeting, could the applicant confirm that is still on the table?
We had a discussion last time. I think the point that we would raise is that that is a full separate process that needs to go through the Highways Authority, and there's quite a lot of approvals. But I think that the view was that if that process has gone through and if we get to a point where that's accepted, then there's definitely a conversation to be had about contributing towards it and helping in that respect. But I understand it sits outside of this planning process. I would note that there is effectively a drop curve there at the moment from the property. But I don't know whether or not it's satisfactory for what the highways need or what Mr. Kendall requires. But essentially, there's a separate process that they've got to go through, and I don't know if that's been started or not. I know some of the members did speak to Mr. Kendall afterwards just to highlight that point.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just as I understand it, if we pass this today, then we pass this design. Is there any way we can delegate to the officer to carry on the discussions? Because it seems to me that broadly a significant effort has been made to change, but there's still some negotiations to go forward. If those negotiations produced anything more positive, you wouldn't be able to show flexibility unless we delegate to you. Is that a practical thing for us to do? Are we allowed to do that?
Well, we're really here to determine the application in front of us and not design this by committee. David?
Yeah, I guess really it's incumbent upon committee to determine whether what's before us is acceptable in the view of your officers. It is acceptable and provides additional separation, tries to mitigate the impact of the bund. I'd be hesitant to leave too open-ended a process because we don't know about where that would necessarily end up, and it could be that the two sides are never able to reach an absolutely happy medium. So I think a steer from members as to the proposal before us is probably the clear way for all parties involved.
Thank you. Any more questions? Any debate? Councillor Swanwick.
I'm sorry the objector is not entirely satisfied, but I do feel that this committee has gone somewhere along the line to try and mitigate the concerns that were expressed at the last meeting, and it looks as though it's probably not practical to go any further. So my view is probably that, well, my view is definitely that we should accept the officer's recommendation today.
I take that as a proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was concerned about this when it came before, because of this particular property being so close to the site. And I take on board the objector and his comments, but I also accept the need for mineral extraction. And I think the operator is a good operator. They put forward a scheme which seems pretty sound to me. And we deferred it last time, and they've gone away and they've worked on this. And we've got assurances today that they, will continue to engage with this particular property owner. So I think in practical planning terms, enough has been done to justify approval of the recommendation. But I am also pleased that the applicant has given their assurance that they will continue to work outside of this particular framework on the access route. And I hope that they will deliver on that in conjunction with the objector, and that they won't renege on it, because I think, they've stated that they wish to be a good neighbour and they wish to engage. And so I'm happy sort of to proceed, having been given that assurance of a spirit of cooperation.
Councillor Jones, was that just to second the motion? Thank you. Any other debate? Oh, Councillor this isn't going to mention
just make the point that, if we give them the go ahead today, they can do what the hell they like.
within the planning rules and conditions. That's not within our gift, though. We're here to consider the plan and application in front of us. Thank you. I'll move to the vote if that's all right. All those in favour? Thank you very much. And one abstention and one against. Thank you very much. Motion carried. Thank you very much. We'll take another. Councillor Brown, are you all right? Do you need a break? You're all right? We'll move straight on then, if that's all right with everybody. We'll just swap officers and we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Agenda item number 6, anaerobic digester at Sandhutton. Oh, he's just got to pull up his presentation.
Seconds.
Where's the one?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you logged in?
That's fine.
Are you logged in?
Yes.
Yeah.
It should be loading right now.
You all right?
Yes, let me see if it pops up.
Yeah,
The load.
no. Oh, there we go. Right.
Okay.
Councillor Swan's getting a drink. Right, over to you, Cameron, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So this planning application involves a proposed development of an anaerobic digestion facility, associated access, infrastructure, landscaping, engineering works on land at former Skipton Australia Airfield. This application is subject to one letter of support, 9 local objections, and an objection from the Sandhurst Parish Council, raising the grounds of a number of amenity and environmental concerns. This application is also,
You go a little bit slower.
yes. Yes. Okay. Yes, and this application is also accompanied by an environmental statement and has therefore been reported to this committee. Over? Yes.
No, they're still struggling.
Oh, still struggling.
No, the system works as it is.
I can speak up, don't worry. Yeah. So as far as the presentation, I'll just go into it. The load. So yeah, so the location plan. So this plan shows application site outlined in red in the former RAF Skipton Australia Airfield. And the site is made up of large flat arable fields situated within an agricultural setting, enclosed by the former airfield's inner circle road. The nearest villages are Sandhatton to the east, with Holme located to the northwest, and Skipton and Swell to the south, just a bit below the extent of the plan. In terms of the site plan, this aerial plan shows the site boundary in red and helps illustrate the scale of the site. So just for context, the plan also notes for context the commercial and residential receptors surrounding the site area. The existing commercial operations include green waste composting, commercial poultry units, utilities contractors, and commercial agricultural operations. These are highlighted in yellow and are on the site. In terms of residential housing, the nearest residential receptors are 5 properties at the junction of Nutrient Row, 550 meters from the main site. This is red and blue down here. And then the closest residential property within Sandhurst lies around 940 meters to the east, which is right in this town over here. This plan shows a proposed site layout and identifies the main buildings, tanks, and infrastructure that make up the anaerobic digestion facility. As you can see, it illustrates the site entrance, the rail bridges, reception building, processing building, digesters, buffer tanks, and odor control units. And then in the slides, you can see the storage lagoons for the digested and a surface attenuation pond. Just for context, the feedstock that would be introduced into this AD would include chicken and turkey manures, cattle slurries, and agricultural residues such as like wheat straw. And this would be delivered to the site and received in the fully enclosed reception building, which is over here at a similar site. And right here is where like the feedstock would be handled and stored. The anaerobic digestion, just as a bit of an explanation of how the process works, it takes place within the digesters and associated tanks, and it would break down the material to produce biogas and digest it. The site includes 3 covered digested lagoons for the safe storage of liquid digested, along with a surface water pond to collect and reuse rainwater as part of the site's drainage and operational processes. This is to the north over here. So in terms of the proposed routing plan, this shows how the vehicles routing to and from the site during both construction and operation would lead. So it would start through here, or start through here, and this would pretty much follow the line. So all ATVs would access the site with the internal airfield road up here, then joining Nutrient Row, which is over here, and then traveling via the A167 to the A61, and then finish on to the A1M. Just for context, the maximum number of heavy goods vehicle movements will not exceed 88 per day, which would be 44 into the site and 44 out of the site, except for up to a period of 60 days per year, just to accommodate crop harvest and the spreading of liquid digested. Where HGV movements shall not exceed 188 per day, which will be 59 in and 59 out. This is primarily anticipated due to the crop harvests in February and late April, and then the summer harvest, August and September. So this routing plan, as you can see, this will be secured through a unilateral undertaking, which is a legal agreement. And this would ensure just throughout both the construction and operational phases, this would be retained. The agreement would also include measures just to manage arrivals outside of allocated delivery slots using a designated HGV holding area to prevent queuing on local roads. And all this will be secured within the legal agreement. So this plan shows the landscape strategy plan for the site and the surrounding access routes. So it illustrates how the planting and screening would be used to integrate the development into the wider countryside. The buildings using the site would just primarily use like a green and gray color palette, and just to help it blend with the surrounding landscape. And as you can see down here in the main site, along the Foss Sykesdale River, and right up here in the entrance of the site, we would have landscaping just to screen the sites from various sources, such as St. Hutton area, down here where Skipton-on-Swale it would be, and just from properties on the side. Yes. So the next slide just shows the National Transmission System, the NTS axis, and wider site layout. So the National Transmission System compound includes a required infrastructure to connect the gas produced from the proposed biofuel plants to national gas grid via the NTS high pressure gas main. So this will be located right here. So there's like a gas pipeline right here, and that's why the location has to be right here. To access this compound, there are two access routes which are proposed, and one of them coincides with Public right-of-way, which would remain to be used whilst the site is operational. So access route number 1 up here follows the public right-of-way and will be resurfaced to provide periodic maintenance access to the NTS compound. And then following completion works, the public right-of-way will remain fully open and usable with an improved surface. So access number 2, which is proposed, would be a new track formed using permeable aggregate surfacing, and will be located approximately 10 meters east of Foss Sykesdale, which is like a small little river which passes right here. So it would be like a 10-meter buffer from the water course. So for the next slide, I would like to make a verbal update just to clarify 2 points in the report in relation to policy conflict, which were addressed, but just this provides us a bit of context. These are flood risk and best and most versatile land, which is BMV. First, in respect to flood risk, the proposal conflicts with local and national policy due to the absence of a sequential test. However, that conflict is given limited weight due to a limited extent and nature of development with higher flood risk areas. So as you can see in the plan right here, where my cursor is, there's like a little tributary called the Foss Sykesdale, and the site compound for the NTS and some of like the access roads, which this access road is already existing and is proposed, just rely on flood zone 2 and 3. However, it's been assessed that only limited weight can be afforded just due to like its own ancillary infrastructure, and it will be resilient in nature, and it would not affect flood zones. Just this shows a bit of like the existing gas pipeline, which the main site would connect to through the NTS compound. As you can see, it shows how the position and layout of the compound and associated access routes within flood zone 2 and 3 are constrained by the fixed alignment of the pipeline and the water course. This fixed alignment does not make it possible to avoid areas of increased flood risk due to the Foss Sykesdale. So just the existing gas pipeline, which does not form a part of this development, is right here, which is right next to the existing Foss Sykesdale. So the main site is not in flood zone 1, but all other infrastructure associated with the development cannot be moved elsewhere just due to this existing alignment. This just shows a bit of a close-up of the compound. The compound has been designed to be flood resilient, would be unmanned, and would contain only non-sensitive equipment. Mitigation measures include raised electrical infrastructure and a proportionate drainage strategy, with access limited to infrequent scheduled maintenance visits only. In addition to this, a planning condition will prevent any raising of ground levels within flood zone 3, further limiting potential flood risk in this area. So the second point, the second and final policy conflict, I would like to clarify through a verbal update, relates to best and most versatile agricultural land, BMV. To better explain how this matter has been considered and weighed in the overall planning balance. A conflict exists with local and national policy due to the permanent loss of grade 1, 2, and 3A agricultural land and policy objectives to enhance it. However, taking into account the secured soil management measures to strip, store, and reuse soils appropriately, the wider sustainability benefits of development, and the absence of any objection from Natural England, on this basis, the conflict has been afforded limited weight. And overall, both identified policy conflicts have been carefully considered and weighed in the planning balance, and are not considered to outweigh the benefits of the proposal. So right here in the plan, the main site would be located, and obviously there'll be some loss of BMB land. And just for context, these are like some site photographs. This shows existing site access. If you see in the small map, this is where the photograph was taken from. This second slide just shows an indicative outline of the proposed development as viewed from the southeast. And this indicative outline demonstrates that the proposed structure will be largely screened by existing features and proposed planting along the site boundary. So as you can see towards the end, this is how the site would be viewed, right from this little star down here, due to the landscaping proposed as part of the application. This just shows another area and how the proposal will be seen. This will be from like the east. As you can see, the landscaping will largely cover the site. And then this will be from the north up here, aside from maybe like the flare stack, and all of the development will be screened by the planting. This photo just shows like the main photo of the main site, right in the main site over here, just towards like this tree line. This is a small photo of the Fossex there, which flows from down here. And then this photograph just shows like the internal airfield road, which would be utilized to access the site. The last photograph just shows another photograph of the main site towards the southeast. And yes, I do want to do another verbal update before I move on to main considerations. Since the publication of this committee item, we have received 14 local objections and one additional follow-up email from the San Hudson Parish Council regarding previous concerns. Having reviewed these responses, they do not raise any issues that have not already been addressed in the report. In terms of main considerations, the principle of the proposed development is considered acceptable as it would support sustainable rural growth through provision of renewable energy infrastructure and the management of agricultural waste in accordance with the waste hierarchy and the presumption in favor of sustainable development. The scheme would contribute to the production of renewable biomethane for injection into national grid and support the agricultural sector through beneficial reuse of digestate as fertilizer. In terms of immunity, this considered proposed development will not result in unacceptable impacts, as predicting noise and vibration effects during construction and operation are assessed as negligible and will be appropriately controlled through mitigation measures secured by condition. Odor will be managed through the use of enclosed processes, negative pressure buildings, and dedicated odor control units serving the reception building and digested lagoons, with operation controls secured through an odor management plan and an environmental permit. In terms of lighting, it is considered acceptable due to the use of controlled task-specific specific lighting during construction and no impact operational lighting, including dark sky considered fittings and time and photocell controls to minimize light spilling glare. In terms of landscape and visual matters, it is considered acceptable due to the site's location within a former airfield in an agricultural and agri-industrial landscape, combined with a comprehensive landscape strategy. Structural planting, bending, strengthened hedgerows, and woodland planting would provide effective screening and visual integration, with effects reducing over time as planting becomes more established. In terms of ecology, it is considered acceptable as the site is of generally low ecological value, as stated by the environmental statement and our ecological officer, with no designated nature conservation sites affected. Construction and operation would be controlled through mitigation measures to protect habitats and road courses, while new woodland, grassland, and hedgerow planting would deliver a measurable biodiversity net gain. As stated before in the presentation, it is acknowledged that there is conflict in relation to best and most BNV agricultural land, as a proposal would result in the permanent loss of 1, 2, and 3A land. However, soil resources would be protected and managed through secure measures. Natural England has not raised any concerns, and the wider sustainability benefits of the scheme are considered to outweigh this harm in the planning balance. In terms of highway matters, it is considered acceptable due to operational traffic being controlled through defined HEV operating hours and on-site facilities, including parking, waiting areas, and wheel washing. Highway improvements, including junction upgrades, access widening, and passing places, will ensure safe two-way HEV movements and forecast traffic levels, including seasonal peaks, can be accommodated without significant highway or safety impacts. And as stated, traffic routing will be secured through a legal agreement. In terms of flood risk and drainage, in the main site, it is considered acceptable as the main operational infrastructure will be located within the flood zone 1, supported by a site-specific flood risk assessment and drainage strategy, demonstrating that the development will be safe for its lifetime, would not increase flood risk elsewhere, and would incorporate flood-resilient design and pollution control measures. While the absence of a formal sequential test is acknowledged as a conflict, this is considered to be outweighed by the limited and ancillary nature of the development within higher flood risk areas. And then in terms of my recommendation, this application, along with supporting documents and additional information, has been assessed and is considered that the proposed development will not have an adverse impact on the local amenity, landscape, ecology, local highway network, public right of way, water environment, historic environment, or local aviation. Although the proposed development would lead to a change to the landscape, it is not considered to be significantly material as to outweigh the benefits of the proposal. Furthermore, the proposed planting and screening scheme would introduce features appropriate to the surrounding location and enhance the natural environment, as well as contribute to the biodiversity of the area. It is therefore recommended that planning permission be granted. That's it.
Thank you very much. We had 3 people registered to speak, but one of them's not confirmed. So, Mr. Stapley, are you here? No, sorry. No, how do we stand legally? Thank you. Just check the rules. No, the trouble is you need to register at least, is it 48 hours, I think it is. Yeah, no good asking me.
Allow any other person to speak in this context, so to do so. But you will need to interference.
Yes, yeah. I will allow you to speak. As the chairman's discretion. Then we get a balanced feeling for this, because we have the objectors that have got 5 minutes. No, the applicant's got 5 minutes. And we need your full name. And yes, press your button. And we need where she lives. No, we're happy with just your full name.
So my name is Brian Cameron. I live in Sandhutton. I've sat and listened to the planning application, and I have sat and quite extensively read a lot of the information online. And what every area appears to be covered, including environmental, highways, all of those sort of areas, but at no point is actual residents and population really talked about this or addressed. The council has sat and among many other applications have also shown real concern about the increase in HGVs in other projects. But this is an increase of 188 movements of HGVs along a road, not only through the Swale, but also through Sandhutton, which are never designed for an average car, let alone industrial level HGVs. Commercial is already available on that site, as are residents, but industrial level HGVs, these roads will never cope with it. Already when we have farm vehicles, agricultural vehicles, and a lot of delivery, big type DPD lorries that come through our village, and I can't speak for the Swale, but I'm sure it's the same, their tyre width already comes over the lines in the middle of the road. If you're talking about vehicles that are even bigger than this, the safety aspects through our village is significantly increased. You've got a lot of houses that are less than 2 metres away from that road. Those lorries are going to be practically touching the side of our house. And at no point has anyone actually mentioned about doing a seismic test at all on any of the residential properties that are along that road. I can vouch for the fact that I live on one of those. The house physically shakes when a slightly large lorry comes through. They never stick to the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and already our houses are being damaged by the fact that these vibrations are coming through the village on a regular basis. So before this even goes ahead, surely a seismic test should be done in our houses, within our houses, also to make sure that these vehicles are actually not going to cause any lasting long damage. The impact on the rural landscape, I can see that there's some great planning done on what these trees and everything else are going to look like, but lorries and vehicles of this size moving through a village and a road that was never designed for anything other than a horse and cart, you can't increase the size of our village, you can't increase the size of our roads, and while you're planning on putting that pipeline through, there's no way you can even get a tractor down that road, let alone an HGV or any other access lorry. So I don't understand how that one's actually going to happen. You keep talking as well about the community impact, but why have we really been considered in this? All the environments, the rivers, the landscape, everything else, but where have we actually been considered as individuals and people who live in these villages as a community? The western side of Sandhutton, you're effectively about to create us as prisoners in our own home. Not only with the movement of vehicles, because it would be unsafe for us to even step out of our front doors, the potential the smell that comes through. You've covered it at the site, but what about the vehicles moving through full of faeces? How are they protected? How are they stopping scent from coming through our village and not remaining there? Because with that frequency, there's no way these lorries are going to be, or that smell that comes from those lorries is going to be allowed to dissipate before the next one comes along. So fine for the site, you seem to have covered that, but what about the transport? What about the movement of these vehicles through all of our villages? Where has that actually been covered, and what protection do these lorries even have to stop the smell from coming through? And also the protection of really impactful sites along our villages. The Swale, that little bridge along the Swale, how is that ever going to be able to cope with that amount of lorry? Just normal traffic has created an enormous divot on one side, which I understand has already been resurfaced once. How is that ever going to be protected from these enormous lorries? And I could keep going on, I'm sure I'm at my 5 minutes, but I really don't think that it's been fully considered on the impact of an actual community. I understand completely we need to move on with biodiversity, we need to move on with more energy efficiency, but surely not at the detriment of populations. When you've got the A1M that runs all the way up, that has huge amounts of land, which has industry already on it and has access points already on it that you don't even need to upgrade, let alone consider. So those are my little points. Thank you very much. I do really appreciate the fact that you allowed me to speak.
Well done. You were within the 5 minutes. Thank you. Can we have the applicant and the landowner now, please? And you're sharing your 5 minutes. So whenever you're comfortable, I can't remember how you were sharing it out, but
I'll go first, Chair.
right, and you wanted 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Chair, members of the committee, I wanted first to thank Cameron Clark Alonso and the wider MRC planning team for their extensive work on the application. That we found the pre-application engagement very helpful and enabling us to incorporate their feedback into our design. Our business is called Advanced Fuel Plants, and we have a team of professionals that are experienced in the agricultural and the energy sector. We've been very much aware of the urgent need to build out anaerobic digestion capacity to stop livestock manures from being spread direct to land. Government policy increasingly is requiring farming industry to monitor and dispose of its waste responsibly, because when manures are spread to land, the greenhouse gases in the manures are vented direct to atmosphere. And the nutrients in those manures are not easily absorbable by crops, which leads to overspreading and to nutrient saturation. This causes significant environmental harm to rivers, and it leads to nutrient vulnerability, which constrains development. We met Robin Bosenworth, who's farmed on the airfield for, since the 1960s. Robin was keen for us to develop the project, and we'll hear from him shortly. Now, North Yorkshire is the second most agriculturally dependent region in the UK. Its agricultural sector contributes over a third of its greenhouse gas emissions. And despite valuable efforts and investment by its farmers, the emission of methane from the spreading of manures is still a major challenge. Methane is 28 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2. And our project will provide a much needed resource for farmers in North Yorkshire to continue to farm sustainably into the long term. The project will provide a number of valuable products: biomethane, which will inject directly into the gas grid to be distributed to homes and businesses as a direct substitute for natural gas. The UK is too reliant on the imports of natural gas, which have a major impact on our cost of living and greenhouse gas emissions. This project will recycle the methane in our agricultural wastes and reduce that dependency and enhance energy security. CO2, the manufacturing industry has a high demand for CO2, and that is often supplied by imported synthetically manufactured CO2. This, our biogenic CO2, will be a direct substitute for that. And a biofertilizer, we'll produce and supply a pasteurized biofertilizer to local arable farmers. Again, synthetic imported fertilizers have exposed farmers to volatile pricing in recent times, and also synthetic fertilizers lack the organic component that we have in the biofertilizer, which is so valuable for soil structure and for sustainable farming.
Could you sum up, please, because you're 3 minutes up.
Will do. So we are, the site is an ideal location because of its proximity to the gas pipeline and the proximity to manures, and we're excited to be bringing 40 million of investment. We've heard the concerns, but we have worked closely with North Yorkshire Council to minimise the impacts on local immunity.
Thank you. I'm going to have to stop you there because you're way over your 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you for hearing me. We're arrived now at a situation where the farming fraternity are really struggling with the climate change and the no longer any government support and the degradation of our soils due to continuous intensive arable cropping. And the answer to this seems to me to be to get back into good old-fashioned rotational farming and mixed farming, using grass layers and grazing and growing forage to feed the cattle. And the FYN and poultry litter will go into the AD plant. Digestate can now grow our wheat and forage, and no imported fertilizers would need to be brought in. And even then, there's talk of there is going to be next year a carbon tax on fertilizer. So by using this fertilizer, organic fertiliser, we will be sidestepping that problem. So we've grown the crops to feed the animals, the manure goes in, which then produces more digestate to grow the next lot of crops. That's circular farming.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but your 2 minutes are up, I'm afraid. But would you like to quickly sum up last few words?
Yeah, the project will help to regenerate soils in the whole of the district, and the Bismuth farms will have confidence to invest further in premium beef production and secure the future of the family business and its young workforce.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Members, questions to officer? Councillor Swanwick.
Thank you, Chair, and I've listened closely to what has been said. I've also read all the documents, and I just have two questions which come from my reading of the documents. One of them relates to the effect on the landscape from the height of the anaerobic digestion tanks, and I don't know whether you can go back to the slide which showed the sort of the mock-up of what it would look like from, I think it was the east. This one? No, it was one of the landscape views.
Probably going on the
One of it. Is that the one?
That was the one, no, the one before. That was it, yes. According to the documents, the height of the AD tanks is 16.5 metres, which in the measurements that I grew up with, that's 54 feet high, which is about 5 stories of a building, I think it would work out at. And the flare is just 12 metres. Whereas all I can see there sticking up really is the flare chimney, I think.
That's it. On the right.
Yeah. And that should be lower than the height of the AD tanks. So that's my first question. Maybe you can tell me why it looks, the buildings look so low in comparison. The second is something which I read references to, which I couldn't quite understand, which was combined heat and power, which is also on site, I believe. Now, combined heat and power usually means incineration, but reading the detail, apparently it is gas-fired combined heat and power, which is providing energy to the buildings, or heating for the buildings, so a bit like a gas boiler. But I can't get much of a measure of that from the documentation. I can't find a document which talks much about that. But obviously it's not directly connected with the process, because the process produces biogas and digestate. So unless you're using the biogas directly, or whether you're buying it back from the grid, I don't know. But it seems an area which is just very, very unclear from the documentation as to what that's all about. So the height of the building, the height of the tanks, I should say, and the combustion element of the application. If you could maybe say a little bit about that, please.
Sorry, I'll go back to presentation. So the exhaust stack, I think you're seeing would be 18.5 meters high.
Okay.
If there was a pattern there report, that can be amended, but the exhaust that you can see in the photographs would be the 18.5 meters high in comparison with other ADs.
It's an exhaust.
Yes.
Okay. But it's the same height as the buildings.
More or less. The reception building would be 14.5 meters high, which is like the main site where all incoming feedstock will be handled and stored. Right. And register tanks would be 16.5 meters high right next to it. This is where like all the process would happen.
I understand that now. They're still quite high.
Yes.
and dominating the landscape, I suspect, having gone to the top of an AD tank and one time in my life.
Well, from the photos, obviously it would be mostly covered by landscaping. Obviously, it being a green and gray color palette will also blend it in with the surrounding landscape. So I think once it's constructed, it will pretty much blend in with the proposed landscaping and the surrounding site.
Not entirely convinced about that, but move on to combustion, please. CHP.
In terms of a CHP, I believe it would reutilize the energy created on site just to heat up and produce electricity that would be utilized. And I can't recall what you said in terms of like the energy that would be made from it.
Where the gas is coming from. The gas back from the grid. Or using.
Yes.
Doesn't say that.
Since it's a very niche thing, you just ask, can I just give me 2 minutes just to look into my notes and provide you a response?
I did get that correct.
Would it be helpful for me to explain? On the CHP point, if I can explain, so that it's there purely to provide the on-site energy demand. So the equipment has an electricity demand and a heat demand, and the most efficient way of doing that is through a CHP rather than importing both sources. So it's fired by gas, and that's its primary purpose. We don't export electricity from the site. It's there to generate the heat and power for the site.
Okay.
I think so, yes, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I really want to understand the transport arrangements. There's 2 access routes in, access routes 1 and 2. Am I right, access route 1, if you come from the motorway, doesn't require you to go through the village, but access route 2 does. How does it work? Do the tracks go in by 1 and come out by 2? And are half the journeys, I get it as 118 journeys a day, maximum, but I think that's hard when you say out. So are we looking at 59 journeys through the village, loaded or unloaded, or is there some other arrangement?
So the maximum number of vehicles will be 88, will not exceed 88 per day. So 44 in, 44 out. So it's 88. This would obviously go up in periods of like high crop harvest, and this would be up to 118 per day, which is limited to 60 days only.
They probably more way down the other.
No, so I'll explain that with the photograph. So as you can see over here, this will be secured through a routing agreement. Sandhutton would be right here, and the whole vehicle movements would just go down here and along here, just following the path from the municipal road, which is the internal road, up here inside the airfield access, then onto the A167, A61, and then into A1. So it will not at any point pass through Sandhutton.
So none of the journeys go directly through the village.
Correct. Yeah. The NTS access route, these 2 routes over here, will just be for scheduled maintenance of the national transmission system. So it'll be just.
Councillor Brown, any more?
No.
Thank you. Any more questions for the officer? Councillor Hugo, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just great to be on what looks like a very exciting project. But I just want to ask a quick question on the pipeline. From the little bit I know about anaerobic digestion, if it's a high pressure pipeline, I think you struggle to get into it. Now, obviously, the applicant will, I'm just hoping, done that already. Is it a given that we can get the biomethane into the pipeline? Is it high pressure or low pressure? I'm sure the gentleman can answer that one.
Very delighted to make it fast. Yeah. Certainly it is a high pressure pipeline, 70 bar, you're correct. And we will have, we do have a connection offer from National Gas Transmission who operate that network. They are keen to get more biomethane directly onto the
their pipeline, and so they've got a biomethane forum to enable this, which we're part of, and so that connection offer is in place. What you have on site are gas compressors. So once the biomethane is upgraded, it is then it has to go through a gas quality skid to ensure that it's the right specification. Then it's compressed to the right pressure, and it's pipelined out to that network and connected in at high pressure.
No. I'm sorry, there'll be no more questions for you today, I'm afraid. That's Aldred.
It's not a question to you, don't worry. Yeah, it's related to the lady's point about the bridge at Skipton on Swale. I couldn't find any mitigation on that from highways. And when I attend these meetings, or any meeting here at Northampton, actually, I do use that bridge very regularly. And I take your point about it being a historic bridge and not set up for that amount of HGV vehicles. Is there any mitigation for the bridge in the scheme? I know it's a fair while away from the site, but as your previous slide pointed out, most of the HGVs will be using that bridge.
So there's no current mitigation in place. Higher authority assessed the site and the HGVs passing through, and did not raise any objection to the HGV movements. The only thing that I can say is that we secured through a legal agreement. In the case that the Skipton Bridge would become unavailable, the legal agreement would discuss it with the highway authority to propose a new route that would not use the Skipton Bridge if it becomes unavailable.
Right, I suspect that would be a really big detour because there's no other kind of roads around there. But are you saying highways haven't been asked to look at the bridge specifically because it's so far away from the actual site? Is that the answer?
No. We have consulted the Highways Authority in their responses in terms of the impact on the wider highway network, which we haven't specifically asked about the bridge, but my assumption is they would take cognizance to that. Their view is that there shouldn't be any wider implications to the network. But I can't handle that, so we specifically asked them that direct question.
Yeah, because it is the route shown on those plans. So all those vehicles, the vast majority anyway, unless there's some coming down from Northampton, will actually cross that bridge. So I think it is a very significant point.
Thank you. Any more questions? We'll move to debate. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, a few things. There are 5 poultry farms close to this site. When I drove in today, I looked at one of them, which was truly enormous. 170,000 birds in the environment, plus cattle farms. That generates a huge quantity of, if I put it politely, guano, which has got to go somewhere. Either we spread it on the fields, or when it dries off, it blows into people's lungs, and there are reports of health damage to people, neighbouring sites from that. Or we spread it on the fields, and it washes into rivers. And if you hear anybody that lives alongside the River Wye about what's happened from chicken farming along there and the long-term impact, we need to be avoiding that at all costs. So we could, so either we all turn vegan, or we have to reprocess this stuff in some sensible way. It needs to be in the countryside near where it's generated, and it has to go somewhere. And this is a disused airfield site. So I can't really think of where we're going to find that's better in terms of alternative sites. But, I mean, this is a delightful local village. It's it's got lots of existing problems with traffic. And I wish we'd done something to help that village by encouraging traffic calming in the village, or at least campaigning with North Yorkshire's and York's mayor to put some fixed traffic cameras in there to stop the speeding traffic and control it. But that's not inside our power, nor is it inside our power if Highways has said it's okay foolishly to do anything about Skipton on Swale Bridge, which is a serious problem. But Highways, as always, just look about can you get it off the site and don't give a serious consideration, so I say them polite, about the consequences elsewhere, and we can't override that. So I think there's very little we can do. We can't impose any community contribution to the village. We can't do anything about traffic calming here, but can campaign for it elsewhere. The only thing I think we can reasonably do is to ask serious questions about the time. I'm not convinced that it is necessary for this to function from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. And see a Saturday morning. I'd at least like to give it an hour less in the evening, because that seems long times. If you can't organise for these lorries to go in between 7 and 6 and give people a break, I think that's a poor lookout. So I would like to propose approval with the one change being that the condition about transport movements is 7 until 18 hours, not 7 until 19. I don't know if anybody would back me on that.
Yeah, just to comment on, it goes on to what Councillor Brown has said about spreading manure on land. Very little regulation really on quantity. It going through the digester will be a big benefit. And mentioned about wind blow. I think the other thing that was mentioned off that particular site has been consecutive years of bird flu on there, possibly wind blown by manure. This, I'm not saying it will cure it, but it's gonna help by putting it through the digester. And on the traffic side of it, I mean, some of this manure is going to be moving around already. It's going to be, some of that is going to be existing, because if you're on that site, you're a farmer, you want to get rid of it, you've got to move it somewhere. So this is going to stay on site. So it's, yeah, I'm sort of excited by it. I think I would probably second Councillor Brown in what he said. And so I'm happy to second that with that restriction on the movement, because obviously we get this, everything we do on this committee, and mainly in the Selby area, we get issues on vehicle movements, and it is a big concern.
Any more debate? Oh, Councillor Swanwick.
Just to say, I'm not 100% convinced about the proposal from Councillor Brown on reducing the hours. I think I'd like to understand a little bit more about the distribution of the use of the transport across the 12 hours. It might be that that's not the best hour to reduce it by. It might be that it's best to reduce it at the time when kids are being picked up or whatever. Or it might actually just compress the same amount of movements into a shorter time, thus causing more problems. So I have to say, I think I will hold my view on that, but I will not necessarily agree with Councillor Brown's proposal without more information.
Thank you. The opposite side is, if you take it off the top, you're going to increase the traffic around the 8 o'clock when you are taking the children to school. So which side you take it off is? Yes, please.
Vote separately on my proposal.
Well, we would take the motion, yours first, the amended motion, and then if that fails, we go back to the original motion. Councillor Aldred.
Yeah, I was going to say 8 till 6, because I don't see why suffer HGV vehicles on that roof at 7 o'clock in the morning, especially when it's dark, as it is at the moment. But let's stick with what Brown's proposed probably. I'm just to go back to the bridge, because it really does worry me. Councillor Brown said we can't do anything about it. Can we not condition it? Can we say we need further consultation on that bridge to ensure it is safe for that amount of traffic?
Well, the motion would have to fail, and somebody would have to recommend a deferral for it to come back to us with the information. I don't think you're going to get a different answer from what you got this time, personally, but I will ask David to come in on that.
No, I think you're right, Chair, in that I don't think we could effectively resolve to give permission and then potentially run that back in if there were issues. So I think if that was something that committee was particularly concerned about, it would be a deferral, or I suppose as an alternative, if committee was minded to grant approval, it could be done with an instruction to officers to explore this with highways and discuss those findings with the chair to determine whether there were issues that warranted.
I mean, I'd be happy with that discussion with officers.
A motion on the table, so we'll take that one first, and then we'll come back to yours. If there's no more discussion on the motion of the table, we'll go to the vote. Oh, Councillor Brown.
Yes, unfortunately, I wasn't aware that the applicant in this issue I know personally, and so I'm going to have to declare an interest and abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, the solicitor is recommending that you leave the room during the vote, I'm afraid. Thank you very much for your time.
You were just about to go to the vote, and I wanted to make absolutely certain that we clarified what we were voting on, please, Chair.
Oh, going on.
Just so we're absolutely clear, if I can just seek confirmation from Councillor Brown, was your motion to amend what would be in effect condition 3, which as drafted says 0700 hours to 1900 hours, Mondays to Fridays. Was your proposal to amend that from 0700 to 1800?
Right.
Okay.
You happy with that? Yeah. Right.
And just to confirm, that was seconded by. Yeah.
Right. All those in favour, please show. All those against? All against. Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you very much. There's no other business. Okay. Yeah. Everybody understand we were voting on the motion?
I thought we were voting on the amended terms.
Amendment was grant permission.
You did say something about you taking on amendment on the bridge. Okay, I mean, can we have an assurance that there'll be a conversation about this? Thank you.
This is the lot.